All right, so in this video, I want to look at a tangent function with a vertical shift. So this one will be a little bit shorter, okay, because just one example. All right, so first of all, the amplitude of this function is still 1 because a is 1. It's whatever's in front of the tangent function being multiplied. So a is 1. The period, the B is 1. Now, this is where some of y'all are going to mess up because period is not 2 pi over B. If it's a tangent function, it's just pi over B. All right. And B just happens to be 1. So pi over 1 is pi. All right. So again, be mindful of your period formulas. Okay. If it is a sine or cosine, then period is 2 pi over b. But if it's a tangent function, it's just pi over b. All right. So that's why we did pi over b here. All right. So remember that with tangent functions, we're going to have asymptotes and halfway points. Now, my period is pi. Okay. So to get the asymptotes, remember the asymptote is going to be 1/2 of your period. All right. So that will be pi over 2. So I'm going to count over 2 because remember it's normally it's 4 increments, right? But with tangent functions we split it. So we have 2 here and the other 2 here. So it's like split. All right? So this technically is pi, okay? But half of pi is pi over 2. All right? So pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. Those are our vertical asymptotes. All right. So x equals plus or minus pi over 2. Now to get our halfway marks, put halfway, those are the quarter marks, okay? So 1/4 of pi is pi over 4. So that means this is positive pi over 4, this is negative pi over 4, and always in the middle is 0. Okay, so that's going to give us those markings. And then, of course, we can do the 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. I don't know how far we're going to go. All right, so now we need to get these other points. Now, this right here tells me that I have to go down 3. Okay, but again, that can be a little trippy for people. Okay, so we're going to look at our calculator and I'll kind of show you how to do it in a few different ways. But we're going to look at pi over 2, negative pi over 2, negative pi over 4, 0, positive pi over 4, and positive pi over 2. All right. Now, a couple of these I already know I'm going to get an error message because I have an asymptote, but I still want to show it to you so that you can see like what I see, all right, and what happens in your calculator. So my original function was -3 plus tangent of x. So in this case, it's going to be negative pi over 2. I'm going to get an error, all right, and I got an error because of my asymptote. So that's good news. We expected it, right? If we had gotten something, we would have been like, maybe I messed up, right? Especially when we start getting into the horizontal shifts. All right. So this is a good clue. We're good. All right. So now I'm going to do it again, but with negative pi over 4. And I got -4. All right. And we'll plot that in a little bit. I'm going to do it again, but with 0. And I got -3. I'm going to do it again with positive pi over 4. And I got -2. And then do it again. I'm going to get an error, but I'm going to show you anyways that I get an error. All right. And I'm getting an error because, of course, it is an asymptote. All right. So I'm going to plot these points. So I have negative pi over 4, -4, 0, -3, and pi over 4, -2. Well, that means that everything meets in the middle right here. Okay. This is like that midline. Okay. So my midline is at y equals -3. Okay, so we're going to take our midline and we're going to curve through our graph. So we go, well, not our midline, but that midpoint right there, and we're going to go up towards the asymptote and down towards the asymptote. Now it looks a little like it's not super symmetric, but that's only because I'm restricted to my graph. Okay, I don't go that far down, right? I could keep going and it would look a little bit more symmetric. All right, so my halfway points, or on y equals k, it's just going to be 0, -3, but my halfway points are negative pi over 4, -4, and positive pi over 4, -2. All right, so that's where those points, are coming from. All right, now without having the calculator, what you would have to do is you would have to think about, well, what would be my original tangent graph? My original tangent graph would have started at 0, 0, and I would have had an a value of 1, an amplitude of 1. So I would have had a point here and a point here. I would have curved up. I would have curved down. Okay, that would have been my original. All right. So what happens is that I would take this -3 and I would count 1, 2, 3, plot a point. Go to my point, 1, 2, 3, plot a point. Go to my point, 1, 2, 3, plot a point. Okay, so you could use the original or and like shift it that way. I'm gonna put a star because I want to make sure I'm looking at that graph, not the yellow graph. Okay, but that's how you would graph a tangent graph with a vertical shift.